I am not going to be knitting sweaters this sweater weather season. Hey guys, welcome to CalicoRadio Knits. I'm Taryn and this is Mac, and we are coming to you from our new apartment. In today's video, we're going to be talking about fall knitting plans, and I know there are a lot of videos about that right now, but I kind of couldn't help myself. I've definitely been very inspired the last couple of weeks watching other knitting YouTube channels and what they're planning to knit this fall, but I thought I could maybe contribute something a little bit different because I am not going to be knitting sweaters this sweater weather season, and I know that's very unpopular, I guess, but I have a couple of reasons why I'm not going to be knitting sweaters, and that is partially because I knit quite a few sweaters this summer, so I'm not feeling that hankering. I'm excited to wear the sweaters I have, but as far as knitting new ones, I don't really have that urge that much for some reason. It's probably the first fall that I haven't had that urge to knit a sweater. So if I'm not knitting sweaters, what am I knitting? I've made a Ravelry bundle, which I'll link in the description for this video below. And if you're curious about any of the patterns I discussed in this video today, you can check them out. They're all in one bundle called Fall Knitting Plans 2024. And I'm just going to kind of be looking over at my screen occasionally. So I've broken down the things I'm going to knit in a couple categories. I have clothing, which doesn't include sweaters. I have accessories. I have things for Mac, of course. And I have home, which is the last category. And within clothing, I have a couple of subcategories. The first is mini skirts. And I have noticed for some reason that other knitting YouTubers are also kind of curious about knitting skirts, which is cool. I also have been feeling that itch to knit some skirts. So I have two patterns, which I do intend to hopefully knit both. The first one is the thin skirt by Wool and Beyond. It's stockinette and it's a fingering weight yarn. I believe they use knitting for olive merino, which is probably the yarn that I will use as well. I do plan to make it black as the original shows. A little black skirt is perfect for kind of anything, and it's not a top, which is really what I'm going for here. I've also wanted to work a pattern by Wool and Beyond for some time. I follow them on Instagram and I really love their stuff, but I just haven't gotten around to it, so I'm excited to finally do that this fall. The second pattern is the Lulu skirt by Lepool. This is actually test knit. I'm part of the test knitting group and I'm excited to start it. It is garter stitch, which I think is going to be kind of cool. I haven't worked with garter stitch in ages. Her pieces really make me fall in love with garter stitch again. I really used to only work in garter stitch when I was like a kid because I learned how to knit when I was 8 years old, and I didn't know how to do much else other than garter stitch, so I would knit like a lot of scarves and blankets and things for my bears and toys and stuff. So I kind of got sick of garter stitch. When I got older and I learned new techniques, I never really went for garter stitch stuff. But Lepool, for some reason, her garter stitch stuff is just so cool. It's like classic, but it always has these nice modern twists, and yeah, I love her stuff. I love her patterns as well. She used a yarn by Manos del Uruguay, and it's called Feliz, and it is a sport weight yarn. And I don't think I have access to that yarn specifically, but I will find another sport weight yarn, I'm sure. It is an A-line skirt, which I like. It's a little bit different than the thin skirt in that regard. And I would knit this one in black, but because I'm already making a black mini skirt, I think I will go with probably some kind of classic fall color. And I think both these skirts are just going to be super cute with like a pair of dark tights or something like that. The next one is kind of the sub-sister category of mini skirts, and that is dresses. I have 3 dress patterns, all of which I would ideally like to make. Let's see. The first dress pattern is by Anna Sophie Velling, and that is Augustine's number 27. And I love her stuff. Like, oh my goodness, they just look so luxe and squishy, and I love all of her patterns. I've never knit any of them, partially because they tend to use bulkier weight yarns, and I'm not as big of a fan of that, partially because of price. I don't know. I just never really found bulky weight yarns I liked that much, but I think moving to Dublin and having access to the EU yarn market, I think I'm going to find a lot more yarns that are well suited for her patterns. So I'm very excited to get into those. So this pattern uses 2 Camarose yarns, a bulky weight and a lace weight. So again, very bulky, very luxe. The top is knitted in twisted rib, and then the bottom is stockinette stitch. So I think it's going to be fairly straightforward, but I love that it's all open. It's more like a pinafore almost, and then I can wear like a long sleeve underneath. So very excited to knit that. I definitely want to knit that this season. I've applied for some of her test knits, but I know they're very competitive, and I'm excited to finally knit one of her designs. The second one doesn't have a pattern. I'm just calling this like the simple stockinette dress. Maybe it's a bit odd, but I took screenshots of a German fashion influencer, I guess you could call her. Her name is Nanda Schwarz, and I like her style a lot. It's very cozy. It's perfect for fall. She wears a lot of like Cezanne and these kind of designers, but she posted a dress she was wearing and she wrote that her mom made it. And that kind of got me thinking, and I was looking at it and I really like the construction. It's super different. It's simple stockinette, but I can tell there's like little bits of nice edging around the sleeves and the bottom. And it looks like it's kind of a straight design. It's not tapered or anything like that, so pretty straightforward. But what I found really interesting is the sleeves. They look like maybe she started from the bottom, knit in the round, and then cast on a bunch of stitches. I don't know how she did these sleeves. Like, if anyone has an idea how she constructed this dress, it looks like it should be really simple, but I think like I'm just so used to how things are typically designed these days that I can't figure this out for some reason. There's a seam that runs kind of along the top here, and it's a boat neck, which I really am enjoying boat neck designs at the moment. But I think the way I would do this is I would do top down. I would do a little bit of back shaping. You knit kind of the back and the sleeves all at once. That's how I'm seeing it. And then you seam at the top and you seam at the bottom of the sleeves, I think. And then you join in the round. Just calling this the simple stockinette. Definitely I'm looking forward to this. I probably will do it in the same color she did because I love olive, especially in the fall time. What you doing, buddy? Oh, Maggie. You want help? You want help? And the last dress doesn't have a pattern per se, but I want to call it the Ginny dress because when I was a kid, my grandfather used to call me Little Ginny after my grandmother, Virginia. I want to call this dress the Ginny dress because I want to recreate a dress that my grandmother, Virginia, made for me when I was a kid. So one Christmas, she made all of the girl cousins matching dresses just in different colors and all of the boy cousins sweaters in different colors, which is just incredibly cool. As a kid, you appreciate it, but as an adult, like just the amount of work that went into it is wild. I don't know. And I still have the dress, thank goodness. My parents saved it for me, which I'm so happy about. And recently my dad found a picture of me and my cousins holding the dresses up. Last time I was at home, I did check it out and take videos and photos of it so I can recreate it. And I have a couple of ideas how to recreate it. I do want to kind of make it for an adult, obviously, like the shaping and stuff, but I would love to make it because she's the one that taught me how to knit and she shaped my life so much. I really appreciate it. And I would really like to knit it this fall in October because that is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that's when a lot of women's health things come up. And she died when I was in middle school of ovarian cancer. And ovarian cancer does have its own month. I believe it's in March, but I don't know. I really want to do it this fall. I think fall time is also like a great time for nostalgia, but in a good way. So I think it would be very cool to make this dress for her and call it the Ginny dress. And every time I wear it, I can think of her and think how much she's shaped my life. I have a couple of ideas how I'm going to do this. I don't want to talk about it too much because I think I'm going to make this into its own separate video, like recording the process and how I go about recreating it. But I have a couple of pattern ideas that I think I'm going to kind of loosely base it on, at least the top part, because I think that's kind of mostly where I need to shape it for an adult body rather than a kid's. So the two dresses I kind of want to use as a general framework to recreate the dress is the Forever Rib dress by Anne-Catherine Stoll. And that dress just came out. It is a fingering weight yarn though, and I'm not sure about using fingering weight yarn. I think my grandmother, it looks like she used probably a DK or worsted weight for the dress. And the second pattern is Maxie's mock neck, and this is a DK weight, so I think this might be the pattern I go with. And the designer has also turned it into a dress as well. So that is kind of my tentative plan for that, and I'm very excited to do that. I've been thinking about this for some time, but I needed to get to my parents to check out the dress and measure things and all that stuff. So that should hopefully be coming this fall. Let's see. That will be its own separate video, hopefully. The next subcategory is vests or slipovers. This is probably as close as I will get to like sweater-esque things. But I have 3 vests. I might only do 1 to 2. Let's see. The one that I definitely want to do is the Ramona vest by Boho Chic Fiber Co. I love that name as well. It just really flows off the tongue. It is a DK weight, worked bottom up, and it has a braided cable up the front. It looks pretty straightforward. I am excited to do it because I've never done a braided cable before. I'm excited that it's bottom up. I usually don't go for those kind of tops, but I don't know, just feeling like something different. I am planning to wear it in a very similar way as the designer is here. I have like a green dress that is tight around the neck, but then just flows out. And I often wear it with a belt, but I don't really like the look, and I don't like feeling so constricted, because that's kind of the point of having a flowy dress, is to not be constricted. So I want to make either a Ramona vest in this gray color like she has, or I was thinking like a very bright green would be cool. Actually, like the top part of my water bottle. Let's see. But I think I'll have to see what's at the yarn shop and go from there. But the dress is unsurprisingly also olive color, so I think a very bright green vest would be kind of cool. And I already bought the pattern, definitely want to make this. The second one is the Lonely Leftovers vest, also by Wool and Beyond, same as the thin skirt that we talked about earlier. And it's another vest that I have been eyeing for a long time. It's also a tie, very similar to this one in the front. I'm not over that, I guess, yet. It has a pretty interesting construction, also garter stitch, which is interesting because I usually don't go for garter stitch, but I really love the I-cord. I think it'd be fun to do it in a bright color like the designer has here. And the construction is basically you work the back panel from side to side rather than top down, side to side, and then you pick up stitches and do the shaping until the armholes, and then likewise you'll pick up stitches at the top here, knit into the armholes, and then join in the round and knit the body back and forth. And lastly is Augustine number 4, also by Anna Sophie Velling, and I kind of plan to knit this as almost like a backup if I don't get to the dress, just because it also has a kind of similar style. It's got like that peplum shape, also a slipover that you would wear with kind of long sleeves underneath, also bulky weight. This one is using, I believe, hip knit wool instead of Camarosa. I really like this as well. I just think that they're pretty similar, so knitting them in the same season may not be necessary. Okay, now the next category is accessories, and I have 5 patterns in this category, 2 of which I've already knit actually. Since I made this list, I've knit 2 of the patterns. So the first one is the Egyptian Socks by Nancy Bush. And this pattern, I believe, was published in 1994 in one of her books. This has actually been kind of a long time coming because a friend knew that I liked to knit, and she knows that I like history a lot. She came upon a blog post that went through the history of sock knitting. I saw this sock in this blog post she sent me, and I thought, oh man, I have to recreate this. And I've heard a lot of different dates around it. No one knows for sure, I guess, but conservatively, the sock was probably knit in the 15th or the 16th century. So I started looking into just that time period of knitting, and the sock was likely knit with 2-ply or lace weight yarn, and it was Egyptian cotton. And they believe that just because cotton tends to stretch and stuff, that rather than using like a lot of ribbing at the top cuff like we normally would do, there was likely some way that they would hold the socks up in place. So I had planned to recreate these socks on my own, and so I bought 100% Egyptian cotton yarn. I bought fingering weight instead of lace weight because lace was too hard to find. But I used Rowan Summer Light 4-ply yarn, and I wanted to recreate it. And then when I was looking into it a bit more, I found Nancy Bush's pattern, and I thought, perfect, I'll just use her pattern. And that's what I did. And they flew off the needles, guys. This was such a fun pattern to make. I had never done such intricate color work on socks before. They do look quite big, and it's mostly because they're cotton, so they don't have as much stretch, but they do fit. And I added a couple more rounds of ribbing to the top. It doesn't do too much, but honestly, like, I'm almost gonna wear them half like slippers around the house. That's kind of the plan. They are a bit different than modern socks. I'm really happy that Nancy Bush kept some of the original design elements in addition to the actual colorwork pattern. But what the big one is they use only half of a German short row. I don't know if you can kind of tell, but usually German short rows are more rounded along the heel. And these just kind of have a slight turn, which definitely still works. Like, it fits great. So the original socks that Nancy Bush based these off of are in the Textile Museum in Washington, D.C., and they have a ton of these. These are not the only pair. You can see so many different socks dating even earlier than these. It's very cool, and all of the photos are digitized in their archive, so you can check them out yourself. And I'll add a link to that in the description of this video as well. Very cool. Second sock pattern I want to do is the Hibernal DK socks by Summer Lee, and this uses a mock cable pattern along the top. And pretty straightforward. I mostly want to knit them because I haven't done any kind of like cabling, and I feel like mock cabling sounds even easier than cabling. And I also haven't had a lot of success with DK weight socks. I have knit a couple, but usually I just eyeball them. So I'm excited to use an actual pattern and add some kind of design to the top. And the third pattern is the Jovial Collar by Vice Knit, and I've already knit this one. This was my first time knitting a collar, and I really enjoyed the process. It was very fast, and it's very flattering. I like the white. I use Sanjo silk, which was a yarn that I bought in Vancouver, and it was just some scrap yarn that I had, so I wanted to use it up because it's super soft. And the fourth pattern is the Sweet Garden Collar by Claire Montagut, and I'm not sure if I will be able to get the original because I believe it's only in Spanish. It was the March 2024 Lana Box project, and I really love it because it's just kind of also classic stockinette, but then it has all these embroidered flowers along the edge. That's perfect for the spring, but I feel like I could do something similar, but for the fall, like a fall edition, maybe some autumnal leaves. So I'd like to do that as well. Let's see. And the last pattern I want to make is the Wonder Waist corset. This pattern just came out recently. I think it'll be really nice in place of a belt, like I was kind of talking about earlier about how when you wear a dress and it's very flowy, sometimes you want it kind of cinched, but a belt is just so rigid, like it doesn't give you any mobility. So I think this Wonder Waist corset would be really cute to wear in place of a belt. And I do have some flowier dresses I think it will look nice for. I'm not sure yet what color I'll make. Some of the test knitters made very bright versions, and also the designer used more of a classic color, like a dark brown. So the next category is Mac. He is deep in here somewhere at the moment, but I have 3 patterns I want to make for him. The first one is the Portland dog sweater, which is my own pattern. I actually designed this pattern 1 year ago, intending to release it. I do have another pattern called the Edinburgh sweater, which I released even earlier, maybe 2 years ago. And it's a seamless dog sweater with a single raglan construction, so you don't have to sew anything together. And a lot of people liked it, but they said that they wanted something with sleeves, which is understandable. I didn't really think much about it because Mac has such short arms. I wrote the pattern last year, and I intended to record a tutorial before releasing the pattern, and I never recorded the tutorial. So this month, I will record a tutorial and I will release the pattern. It will also be free. It will have a tutorial. I'm not a designer, so it's, this is just for fun. And the next pattern for Mac is also a sweater. I realized that I said no sweaters, but I didn't include that for Mac. So no human sweaters. Plenty of sweaters for Mac though, of course. He needs his sweaters. Then the second one is going to be kind of a matching sweater to a sweater I recently knit called the Campus Cable V sweater by Friday Knits. And that is mostly just because I have quite a bit of extra yarn from that design. And I thought I could make kind of a version for Mac, like a matching pattern. So I plan to do that. I probably will use my Edinburgh or my Portland dog sweater design as a template and just add in cables that are similar to the one in the Campus Cable V, because obviously that's not my design, so I'm not writing a pattern or anything like this. This is just for fun. I might make a video of doing that as well. Let's see how it goes. And then the last thing I want to make for Mac is a dog balloon stuffed animal. I've seen these fairly often, both in crochet and knit. So I have 2 kind of patterns I was thinking to use. One is crochet, one is knit, and I kind of figured that if I feel like crocheting, I'll go for the crochet one, but otherwise I'll just stick to the knit one. I do plan to make the stuffed animal long, like Mac, obviously, and I think he'll like it. He does tend to like stuffed animals. I crocheted him an amigurumi stuffed animal before, which he liked, and it did last a while. He did eventually destroy it, so let's see. I'll either crochet or knit that one. Oh, he's coming out. Hey. Sometimes he gets really warm and he just has to explode out because he's so warm. I guess that's not the case. All right. And that's the last thing I'll make for Mac this season. Maybe some other sweaters as well. Usually I'll make Mac a sweater if I just have a little bit extra left over from a project that I've already made for myself, because he does go through sweaters fairly often because he's so low to the ground. They do tend to get worn out in the belly area. So the last category is home, and I only have one project, and that is a temperature blanket, but not measuring temperature, but measuring mileage. So last year I kept track on a calendar of all the kilometers I ran, and it was very cool. It was very satisfying seeing how much I ran every month and throughout the whole year. But then that was it. It was cool to see, but there was nothing left to do with that information. And as I was finishing the year out, I noticed people were publishing pictures of their temperature blankets. And I thought, oh, that is such a cool idea. I would love to make one. And then I realized I have all of this data. I should make a temperature blanket, but a mileage blanket instead. So I think that's what I'm going to do this year. I did the same kind of thing that I did last year. I usually keep track of all my mileage on a calendar like this. It's super small, just shows the entire year, very basic. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to break it down yet. I definitely plan to make a separate video chronicling this process of making the temperature blanket. And I didn't start until now because we had a pretty good idea that we were going to be leaving Montreal at the beginning of the year, so I didn't want to buy all the yarn for this project and then have to move it all. So now that we moved, I can buy all that yarn and decide on the colors and everything else. So that's definitely something that I'm going to be working on for the rest of the year. If you guys have any other blanket ideas, like other than temperature, that you would like to knit, I would really love to hear the ideas. I love the idea of like data like this being turned into something creative. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you guys want to share your fall knitting plans, I would love to hear them in the comments section. I hope this video gave you maybe some good ideas for the fall going forward. Thanks so much for watching. And yeah, I will see you this fall for a lot of these projects. If you guys are interested in following along, if you're interested in knitting tutorials, knitting vlogs, knit alongs, feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.